Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show, brought to you each week by the National Sports Collectors Convention. Join us every Wednesday evening at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time and get the latest news from the greatest experts in the sports collectibles world. You can watch us on the Great American Collectibles Facebook page, as well as YouTube, or you can listen to us on Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, or any of your favorite podcast platforms. And now your hosts, award-winning sports collectibles author Tom Zappola and Red Sox Hall of Famer Rico Petrocelli.
Mr. Petrocelli, how are you, my friend?
All right, very good.
What's going on?
Wait a second, you got a nice tan there, especially with that ugly. What do you call that? Again?
Call it a goatee. They call it a goatee.
No, just.
I got to be honest. I mean, actually, in Southern Florida, we've had 2 weeks of 80-degree weather, and it's been phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So
That's nice.
I know.
20...
I know. Welcome to the Great American Collectibles Show. I'm Tom Zappa, along with my co-host and buddy, Red Sox Hall of Famer Rico Petrocelli. We have a really, really great show today. I'm excited about it because this is right in my wheelhouse. We're going to bring in Lee Behrens from Sterling Sports Auctions in about a minute, talk about his current auction. But we have what I consider, actually what you view as considered one of the 4 on the Mount Rushmore of the hobby. David Hall is joining us along with J.P. Cohen of Memory Lane. David is the founder of PSA, Collectors Universe, PCGS. When we talk about people that really created the hobby, David is one of the 4 or 5 people that really did create the hobby. And David has given us carte blanche today, carte blanche to talk about anything regarding the T206 collection and the infamous Honus Wagner Card. But before we do that, yes, Ray, go ahead.
I was going to say that the T206 and its history, I think it's very important for the collectors that are watching and listening, and even some of the other auction house people.
I couldn't agree with you more. But let's bring in Lee first. Lee Behrens from Sterling Sports Auctions. Hey, Lee, how you doing, buddy?
Good. We're about 90 degrees difference from where you're at. It's like 13 below outside right now. So,
well, you're in beautiful Minnesota, which I don't know why, but you're in Minnesota. Lee, you have an auction going on right now.
Yep.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about it? Well, one thing, you do have a T206. It's a Lennox back, right?
Yeah, we got a black Lennox back of the Herzog Red Sox. Real popular and not easy to find.
And you got a Matty too, don't you?
The Mathewson is a E91.
Okay.
That guy right there. But we do have a nice variety of different backs, Cycle 460s, American Beauties, Hindus, like that. Some nice Hall of Famers. I think these are all little Cy Young. Joss in the 60 Waddell portrait.
And you also have quite a few 50s tops, correct?
We got a fair share of them in there.
Yeah. Today's obviously, Lee, today we're revolving around the T206 collection, T206 cards. Is that, I ask this question all the time to a lot of the guest dealers that come on. Of all the cards, T206 cards, are they most prevalent in your auctions over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had, because my background is pre-war, I've always had a strong pre-war offering every auction, and T206 is, I mean, I don't think I ever have less than 50 of them in an auction, and on up to, a few hundred of them in the auction, depending upon the consigners.
What are some of the other? Okay, Rick, I'm sorry.
Is it a limited market? In other words, not very many people, especially the ones that are very expensive, can buy them. But what is how tough is it to be able to sell them?
Well, with the T206s, there really isn't much issue. It's pretty much they're going to go for what they go for. If you started at $1, they're going to end up where they end up. I mean, I have a strong
I can
base.
tell you that it's not easy to buy them.
Oh, I mean, David Hall,
Yeah.
definitely.
Tom, I have two statements to make that are important.
Go.
Sure.
Okay, first, statements of respect. Tom, I loved your books. The
Thank you.
T206 book, the 1952 Topps book.
Thank you very
refer
much.
to them all the time. They're amazing.
Well, I appreciate that.
Second statement of respect, they used to call James Brown the hardest working man in show business. We have with us JP Cohen, who I call the hardest working man in the sports card collection.
Well, let's bring him in too. JP,
Thank you, David.
how you doing, buddy? You can come on in, say hi.
Dave, his wife, Ellen, she's behind the books. She does all,
That makes sense.
and all he does is read it.
Well, they're two amazing books that I still look at
Thank
all
you.
the time.
I agree with David. Your books are amazing, and I actually supported them for it seems like 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. JP, I got to tell you, man, there's a handful of you guys that were really with us from day one, and you were at number one. Well, actually, I have to say PSA was number one. Joe, when I approached Joe to write the books, Joe was on board, and then you were right behind him, supporting us every possible way, and I appreciate it. We
use those books. They've been amazing tools for the hobby, amazing tools for our business. There's a lot of new collectors that come into the space, and it is such a great piece of tool for us to share with the collectors, where they can catch up on the different issues and the different things. So hats off to you guys for putting those books together. And I agree with David, and I appreciate the compliment, David. It's very nice.
Well, let's put it this way. JP knows the market as well as anybody. If I have a question, he's my first call.
Lee, are you a collector? Do you collect T206 cards?
Yeah, my big thing I have is all but one of the Cycle 460 backs. That other than that, I have a few Hall of Famers in the collection, and then I think a Lennox back, but it's pretty much all Cycle.
Okay, more to Rico's comment on who collects. They're not cheap cards. I met, when I was doing my back set, of course, a lot of people. Now there's minor leaguers in the T206 set, and I met one person who, he lives in Indianapolis. His goal was to get every back variety of every Indianapolis player in the T206
Oh my
set.
God.
It's like, dude, what are you doing?
Are you kidding me?
And he was just fanatic about it. So I don't know whether he tried to contact any of the families or whatever, but if it was Indianapolis, he wanted every back variety.
Lee, your website address, obviously, when does the auction end, Lee?
Thursday. I need initial bid in by 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then you're allowed to bid on any lot in the auction once you have one bid in.
Well, you know something, Lee, we get a lot of, you're in that niche of the smaller auction houses, and people just love it. There's a couple of guys that we talk to quite often. You're one of them. People love just the fact that what you have is very affordable to them. What is your website address?
It's the website address is sterlingsportsauctions.com. The other another big benefit I have is I don't have to charge sales tax in any state but Minnesota. So you don't have to pay sales tax basically when you're buying, or if you're consigning.
Yes, we have problems with Minnesota in the coin business also.
Do you really? Good. All right, Lee, we appreciate you coming on board. Stick around, watch the show, and buckle in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take care, Lee.
Thanks, guys.
See you, Lee.
Thanks.
I have a question right out of the gate for David. All right, David, you were talking. I don't have the answer to this. You may not have the answer, but we're talking about the minor leaguers. Ellen and I, when we wrote this book, we could not figure out why Jack Bastian is in the collection. Do you have any background on that? I almost called you when we wrote the book to see if you
Yeah,
could give
no,
us
I have, I couldn't pick him out of a two-man lineup more than 50% of the time. I have no idea why he's there. I can tell you that when I was putting my set together, minor leaguers aren't supposed to be worth as much, but I didn't care. I just wanted to fill the hole, and I would pay up for a broadleaf 460 minor leaguer. I'm in.
I mean, we tried. We did research actually at the Hall of Fame on a handful of players. They opened up their doors to us, and there wasn't much there on Bastian either. I mean, we just couldn't figure out. He must have known somebody at the tobacco company that maybe said, "Hey, we'll get him in. I'll get you in." I don't know.
Remember the American Tobacco Corporation or whatever it was, they were selling cigarettes. They weren't thinking about you and me, okay?
Right.
And there's even a contemporary newspaper article that says, the headline is something like, "Are the tobacco companies trying to hook young boys on tobacco by putting baseball cards in the pack?" The answer, of course, was yes.
Interesting. Rick, jump in, Rick.
Yeah, I have a question really to start off the Wagner thing, the history of the Wagner card. The first person Gretzky, how did it get to him or to the value to go up the way it has, even in in those days, early on.
Well, JP might know more about it.
Yeah.
The history.
So originally, Bill Mastro got the card and it was sold to Copeland, who was a big collector in the the 80s and 90s. He owned sporting goods stores and it was sold raw. PSA didn't authenticate it at that point. Soon after, it got authenticated by PSA and graded an 8. So that's how it started in a holder. Eventually, Bruce McNall, who was the owner of the LA Kings, and Gretzky, who I believe at the time was playing for the Kings, and they were friends, decided to buy this card out of a Sotheby's, I believe it was, auction, where the Copeland, I think, collection was sold. And being that said, they paid all this money, and I believe, I'm not really sure why they sold it, other than there was some situations with Bruce McNall where he got himself into some trouble, I think, and Gretzky and Bruce decided they needed to sell it. And they made a deal with Walmart, who was the big pack distributor of unopened baseball card packs. And Walmart did this promo where they were going to give away the Gretzky McNall Wagner card in a drawing. So if you bought a box or a pack, you got your name in a drawing, and they would pick someone to win this card. So fast forward, the drawing took place. Walmart gave the card to the winner, who was a postal employee. The postal employee couldn't pay the taxes, as it's been told. So he had no choice but to put it back up for auction. It ended up in REA's auction. REA got, I believe, somewhere around 1.2 million, if my memory serves me correctly, and it was bought by Brian Siegel.
My neighbor, by the way, who lives next door to me.
Okay, so Brian, who's still a collector, he's out there today still, mainly memorabilia. He kept it for many years, I want to say at least 10 or so, and eventually Brian decided that he would sell the card, and I believe the sale was somewhere around 2.3 million to a local Orange County guy as well, who was a customer of Memory Lane's, among other dealers. and he would come into memory lane and just hang out literally in this office that I'm doing this interview right now. There'd be a chair over here in the corner, one of these reclining massage chairs, and he'd come in every so often and talk cards and talk with me, and always, be very proud of his Wagner card. Well, this lasted for about 6 months after he bought it, and most of the time he would say, "Hey, I'd always sell it if I can make some good money on it." And one day I was helping Kendrick with his collection, and which was originally some of it was originally the Candiotti collection, which we're going back now to the 90s. Tom Candiotti, the knuckleballer, had one of the best baseball card collections in the hobby, the big dollar cards. And he made a deal with Kendrick to buy that collection, and that's how I got to know Ken. And Ken eventually said to me in conversation that he heard that the Wagner sold, and if it ever comes available again, he'd like to own it or try to own it. So anyway, that's how it went. The gentleman was sitting in my chair here that owned the Wagner, and he said, offer it to Ken, and Ken eventually bought the card. And it's been with him, I think it's now almost 20 years. I think it was around 2006 or 7 is when he acquired it. And how it goes is that's one of the 2 things in his estate that will never be sold. That'll be handed down, for his family generations. So
I will continue the story if you'd like.
Yeah.
So when PSA was ready to be launched, I, of course, knew Bruce McNall from the coin business. So we contacted him through the Goldbergs, another coin dealer who were close to him. And we said, we'd like to grade that card as the very first card we grade. And they thought it was good promo for the card. And that's what we did. And then, of course, if you want, I'll talk about the controversy. And I have two things that are part of my narrative. Okay. We have to talk about the book and the FBI. Okay. So the book. So writing a book, he gets a publishing deal, right? And he sends me a copy, and there's some big mistakes in it. And I email him and say, there's some big mistakes. He calls me and says, well, what are they? I'd like to interview you. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that because you've already written the last chapter of your book. Look, he gets a publishing deal. I don't know if he got an advance, but his publishing deal is based on the fact that this card, there's something wrong with it, right? So he had the last chapter of his book already written, so I declined to participate. So Bill Hughes, who was involved in the grading, calls me. He saw it too and said, David, this, and this is wrong. I go, yeah, I know, Bill, but whatever. People just care about their cards. This is not a big deal. Fast forward to the FBI, and JP knows because they talked to him. So, and I have no problem with the FBI. They've done some good things for our hobby. In fact, PSA there was this whole bunch of counterfeit autograph fraudulent guys in San Diego that we helped the FBI with. I think they called it Operation Bullpen. Some guys making bad autographs that they got. So anyway, this FBI guy starts showing up at the National and talking to JP and other dealers. And he gets it in his mind that this Wagner is a problem, okay? Well, he was after Bill Mastro and some of the naughty things, I guess, that Bill supposedly did in his auction. So they go to Bill and offer him a deal. I guess Bill had to do certain things to get a little bit less jail time. Okay. And I don't want to say it was like a publicity stunt, but this FBI guy was obsessed with the Wagner. Okay. And my speculation, and I don't have proof, just my speculation, is they went to Bill and they said, okay, in exchange for this, and this, part of it was probably turning on his partner, will reduce your jail time, but you have to say you trimmed the Wagner. And I think the FBI did that so that they could, whatever, say that this multi-million-dollar card was part of their settlement. They announced Bill's indictment and the Wagner and all that, what was at JP like a week before the National. And if you think about the timing, it kind of fits in with my narrative. So I wanted to get in front of it. The first thing, Ken Kendrick and say, PSA has a grading guarantee. Do you want to talk about anything? And he said, no, I love my card. I think the controversy makes it worth more. He brings in like his 11 or 12-year-old son and asks him, when are we going to sell the Wagner? And his son says, Dad, we are never going to sell that card. So I said, okay, Ken, if you ever want to talk, PSA is here for you. Okay, so I then go to the PSA set registry meeting and go, okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, okay? How many here have seen the Wagner out of the holder? And of course, I was the only one that could raise his hand. How many have looked at it under magnification, edges, corners, etc.? And of course, I was there, so I was the only one that could raise their hand. And in the grading room, contrary to what the bookmates say, it was never a question of is it good or bad. I mean, we looked at it, compared it with other T206s, under magnification, looks totally okay to me. So we graded it. The only question was, is it a 7 or an 8? I mean, and the card just jumps out and slaps you in the face. It's so beautiful. And so we graded it, then the book comes out, then the FBI gets involved, etc. To me, to my dying day, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that card. It's gorgeous, probably the greatest of all sports cards. Right up there with Marshall Fogel's 1952 Mickey Mantle. And that's my side of the Wagner story.
It's an icon. I mean, almost everybody knows about it, whether they collect or not. I mean, the Wagner card was, made, let's say, headlines. There were so many stories and on TV, in the newspapers and so on.
All right, listen, here's what we're going to do. First of all, my apologies. We're having some weather down here, so we're having some internet problems down here on my side. What we're going to do this week is we're going to switch up a little bit. We're going to take a quick break. We are not going to be working with the tournament this week. We're going to stick with David and with JP for the whole hour. We'll continue the Great American Collectibles Show baseball tournament next week, Rico. Is that all right with you?
With me?
Yeah.
Sure. Be here next week. Just honor me.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. David Hall's in the house. JP Cohen's in the house. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Curry, a two-time child cancer survivor, recipient, and advocate for Lucy's Love Bus. The mission of Lucy's Love Bus, 501c3 nonprofit, is to provide joy, comfort, and quality of life for the entire family of children with cancer. Since 2006, they have delivered love and comfort to over 3,000 children with cancer and their family members across New England. The dream of Lucy Grogan, an 11-year-old cancer patient, was to help kids with cancer who are suffering right now, before there is a cure, by offering free integrative therapies like art, music, horseback riding, and many other activities. Unfortunately, Lucy passed away, but her dream lives on, and today Lucy's Love Bus is thriving.
I'm Red Sox Hall of Famer Rico Petrocelli. I hope that you'll consider supporting Lucy's Love Bus and all of those children who have been stricken by cancer. The Great American Collectibles Show is partnering with Lucy's Love Bus to help these kids. Let's continue Lucy's dream. Please go to lucyslovebus.org for more information.
Since 1996, Brian Drent and the staff at Denver's Mile High Card Company have led the charge in the collectibles hobby. Mile High is a full-service dealer specializing in buying and selling cards and offers a competitive consignment program for all collectors. Whether it be their computerized want list service, appraisals, or auction services, Mile High has it all. If you've been searching for a company with a selection of high-grade vintage 1888 to 1970 baseball cards and memorabilia that shares your passion, aim high, mile high. Go to milehighcardco.com or call 303-840-2784 for more information.
This is Brian Drent, president of Mile High Card Company. Is your sports card and memorabilia collection properly insured? For easily replaced personal property, homeowners insurance is all most people need. But for prized possessions that you may have spent a lifetime collecting, it doesn't go nearly far enough. Collectables Insurance Services has been insuring for over 50 years. They offer a full range of protection and a $0 deductible at an affordable rate with no appraisals required. I know because they insure my collection. If you have a minute, go to collectinsure.com and learn more about insuring your personal card or memorabilia collection.
Let's go! Batter up!
Hi, everyone. This is Rico Petroselli. JustCollect.com, a leader in the vintage sports card industry, is giving free appraisals on your vintage cards. They'll evaluate your collection for free and let you know the value of it at no cost and no obligation. If you're ready to sell, JustCollect.com will offer you industry-leading prices to buy your card collection. To begin your free baseball card appraisal, visit JustCollect.com or call them at 732-828-2261. That's JustCollect.com for your free vintage card appraisals and top buy prices for your cards. Check out JustCollect.com today.
With record-breaking sales from everything from the white border T206 Honus Wagner for $3.12 million to some great items that support the Jackie Robinson Foundation, Golden Auctions has set the highest standards for the finest in sports cards, autographs, and game-used memorabilia. We're always accepting consignments of high-end premium sports treasures or entire collections. Please register for our next auction and bid now at goldenauctions.com. That's golden with an I. We at Golden Auctions are committed to providing unsurpassed customer service for the discriminating collector. That's exactly why we're the leader in the industry. Visit goldenauctions.com or call 856-767-8550. Remember, Golden Auctions. We don't just break records, we shatter them.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
How would you like to own the bat that was used by your favorite player when he hit that towering home run or game-winning base hit? Now look no further than JT Sports, specializing in the sale and authentication of professional game-used bats. As the official authenticators of professional model game-used bats for PSA DNA, JT Sports will guarantee the authenticity of any bat purchased from them. JT Sports also buys and sells game-worn uniforms, gloves, and baseball equipment. The unique quality of the collectible is what JT Sports is all about. Give them a call at 609-487-8003 or check them out at GameUseBats.com.
Okay, we are back and chatting with David Hall. JP, Rico's with us. You know, again, another programming note. We've decided to, this week, the tournament We're going to postpone till next week. This week, it was the 1939 Yankees against the 1942 St. Louis Cardinals. Next week, you'll find out the results of that. But my feeling is when you have David and you have JP,
Oh, get the
all
best.
bets are off, baby. All bets are off. David, I do have a question, another perplexing question, and this for me, this is like Christmas because, we wrote the book, and I still have a lot of questions, and I want to get your opinion. A lot of error cards, like the McGee error card is the most famous error card, worth whatever it's worth. But when we wrote the book, we uncovered 4 or 5 other errors that nobody knew about. Just small things like misspelling of names. Minor leaguer Harry Lentz was really Harry Sense. Silly little things like that.
Yes, yes.
Why is the McGee card, in your opinion, why is that so valuable when there are other error cards?
I think it's a tradition. T206 was a very early high demand series that the so-called old timers collected. And they found the Maggie and found out that it wasn't easy to find. And so it became part of the so-called Big Four with the Wagner, the Plank. And it's kind of sort of fell off the desire list a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too.
The other one is, the team changes, like O'Hara St. Louis,
Yeah.
which is not really as rare as people think. Almost all auctions have one, usually in low grade. And then there's the weird spellings, like, is it Dopner or something that has?
Yeah, there's that. There's several level.
It never floated my boat, and it doesn't appear to be that much interest to other collectors.
JP, before we get into David's collection, I know most of it's gone now. How many Wagners have gone through your hands, JP?
A lot. I mean, obviously we've been doing it so long, so we've been fortunate to see a lot of them when they were, comparatively speaking, very inexpensive. There was a time when, a PSA 1 Wagner was 75, 100 grand, 125,000. That was just 25 years ago. And now I've been told as much as 4 or 5 million lately. But, to answer your question, we've been fortunate to handle pretty much every high grade Wagner and a lot of low grade ones as well. We've placed the 5MC a couple of times. We've placed the 4 a couple of times, couple of 3s, lots of 2s. Obviously, we were involved with the final resting place of the PSA 8. So we've been very blessed to get in early on to see some of these cards come through our hands. A lot of these big cards, not just Wagner's, but big dollar cards, once they're sold, they usually go into strong hands and they become part of someone's estate or collection that will probably take many decades or generations to eventually see again. So that's the beauty of our hobby, is that when these cards do end up in someone's hands, it's almost like you can take the PSA Pop Report and just take one off, because you probably won't see that again. So when you see something that's a low pop 5 or 10, technically it's a lot less than that, because most of the cards are with collections that no matter how much money you offer that person that owns it, it's not for sale. That's the beauty of collecting sports collectibles or sports cards, is that.
JP, can you talk about the 1941 Joe DiMaggio?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's one of my favorite cards. It was one of my first cards that I own as in a PSA holder in the 90s. And, obviously it was an amazing year for Joe DiMaggio. And I personally, the colors, the artwork that was design for that
It's
card.
a 10, right?
Is one of the greatest cards ever produced, in my opinion. I was fortunate enough to take my copy in the 90s, which was a PSA 9. And I remember I took me 6 months to pay it off. I made payments to a dealer, and it was 12 grand at the time. Now that card's well into the six figures now. And it was a pop too. And I actually went and saw Joe DiMaggio with the card. And because I had that card in my hand, he invited me back to sit with him and take a picture. And
You got to be kidding me.
And I actually have a picture of Joe DiMaggio and I holding that card. And, this is a couple years before he passed. And it was something I'll never forget. But that card is a special card.
Did he charge you for the picture?
I'm sorry?
Did he charge you for the picture?
So that's how the story goes. It's a funny story. It's so I'm there with the card, and I'm proud of the card, and that's why he invited me back to sit with him. And this is before cell phones, so I was able to find a kid that had a disposable camera, and I said, all right, you're my cousin. You're coming with me, and I'm going to tell him you're with me so you can take a picture, and I'll get you a picture too. And the mother's shaking her head and going for it. So we go behind the curtain there, and I'm sitting with DiMaggio, and the security guard takes the camera and takes a picture. So as the security guard's taking the picture, he says to me, well, how much is that card's worth? And I'm sitting here with my arm around Joe, holding the card up. And I wanted to brag. As I said, I paid 12 grand for this thing. So I thought Joe DiMaggio, being who he was, if I put a big number on it, he'd be like, wow, that's great. Good for you. So I said, 20 grand, it just came out of my mouth. And Joe DiMaggio, I think, woke up out of his being asleep or whatever and said, charge this guy for this picture.
Rico, question?
Well, I wanted to ask JP and David, what is the toughest T206 card to find or to get?
I mean, you're eliminating the Wagner and you're eliminating the plant. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the Doyle, right, JP?
Yeah, the Doyle variation is by far the toughest and rarest version of the card. Unfortunately, most people don't know anything about it.
Right.
It's the Plank and the Wagner and the Cobbs and the Mathewsons and Johnsons. Those are all the popular cards. So, however, if you're putting a set together and you want to do the monster set there, you're gonna have to have it. And there's only a handful that exists. There's way more Wagners than
I
Planks.
could not find one.
You were never able to find one, David?
No.
Really?
And they sell for a lot of money. They sell for not like a Wagner, but we just sold a one for over $1 million, and it was I want to say it was a PSA 2. So
David,
to me, the very best card in the T206 set is Ty Cobb with a Ty Cobb back.
That's pretty rare.
Because it's Ty Cobb, and they tried to market Ty Cobb tobacco unsuccessfully.
Right.
And there's what, JP?
17,
18 of them.
There's about 15 or 20 of them now. But
well, the lucky 7 find kind of turned that whole thing upside down, right, JP?
It did. And now you would think that they would be readily available, and they come up from time to time, but they're, like David said, extremely rare. It's really a cool card. It's the red version of the T206 with the Ty Cobb advertisement. And then the story goes that in fact, in my last auction, we auctioned off a Ty Cobb tin that was produced to distribute the tobacco in. And the story goes that card was produced to put in that tin. But there's some great history stories about the Lucky 7 find, as well as the tins. We've had a couple sales in the 25 plus years we've been doing auctions where 2 great ones about the tins where people found them. One guy was knocking down a wall, and it was just when he knocked the wall down, it was sitting on the 2x4. Probably since 1909. When the person was smoking, rolling tobacco, put it up there. They closed the wall up, and fast forward 100 years
Before
later.
the Lucky 7 find, there's maybe a dozen known or so. And
Well,
I said, "This
you're
is the
right.
best." I said, and they were about 40,000. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to buy them all. Okay. And I finally was able to buy one for 6 figures. And I said, well, maybe I won't buy them all.
David, was the one that you bought one from the Lucky Seven find?
No.
Okay. You know, it's interesting because Rick Snyder is a good friend of the show, a good friend of Rico and myself. And we had Rick on about 2 or 3 months ago. And the damnedest thing. I mean, he had the Lucky Seven find. And what are the odds of somebody else knocking at his door, totally different person, older woman with another one? And so
I
crazy.
personally, JP should chime in. I don't know that there's any more big hoards like the Al Rosen 52 tops find, the Lucky Seven. I have my doubts because of the internet and it's so easy to find what stuff's worth. I think anything that was valuable would have already come out.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand, because I've been doing this so long. There was a time when I would do shows and people would line up, especially bring up Al Rosen. I used to set up our booths 20 years ago next to him, and they'd line up to see him and wait a half an hour to show what they have for sale. Now you do shows, and you'd be lucky if you look at one collection at a show. So the stuff has been graded, it's been found. However, you do every year find a newsworthy story of something. It could be, I think there was something in the East Coast where someone found cards that fell behind a wall. And it was like there was a Ted Williams card. It was low grade. And then you had the Black Swamp find that was 10 years ago. And you have, some baseballs and game use stuff that surfaced. But in general, the stuff that has made the history of this hobby has been discovered, like the Rosen find, which is one of the best finds of all time. And but every year you get something. It might not be as big as the Lucky Seven find or the Rosen find, but it is a find in itself, and there's a great story, like you mentioned with this recent T206. The Rick Snyder got a call for the Cobb back. It's amazing that these things do surface from time to time, but in general, I think,
Tom, for your listeners, we should explain the Rosen 52 tops find. It was
Absolutely.
high numbers, right, JP?
It was a high number case. Supposedly, the as the story goes, is the gentleman's, I think his father or uncle worked for Topps, put this case in the attic, called up Al, said, I have this case. And what I was told, or what I heard, was that the gentleman invited Al to come out to his house, and in preparation for Al showing up, he decided that he was going to open every pack and organize the cards for him. And there were stacks, like piles of stacks of cards everywhere. And when Al was going there, he was thinking he was going there to get see an unopened case of 52 tops, and he walked in, and the guy says, I got it all kind of organized for you so you can look at it quickly so we can, get to the doing the deal. So that was kind of funny because, back in that day, you want to not open the packs in general, but it turned out to be pretty good. There was,
how many Manals were there? Do you know?
It was like 80 or something Manals, and most of the high grade Manals that exist are from that find.
Rico and I'm going back maybe 4 or 5 years. We had Seiberger's son on with us, and I think he was still. That was a funny show, Rico, if you remember, because he lives right near us. I think he lives in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we had his son on. I think his name was John. I'm not. I can't remember his first name, but he said that once they dumped all of that material into the water, he said his dad regretted it for years and years and years, that he just, obviously he didn't realize at the time, I mean, he couldn't give them away, correct, David? He couldn't give them away. And he just regretted it for the rest of his life. He had a real tough
It
time.
wouldn't have been worth as much, no?
Well, I think you're right there. I think that's part of it. I think you're right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
one of the guys, if I may, because it's so, in my mind, and Tom and I go back and forth on this. I know we're talking T206, but what do you guys think of the moderns?
That's a great question.
Okay, here's my take on modern.
Yeah.
Okay. You go to basketball, Morant. Okay. He's really, really fun to watch on ESPN top 10 plays of the day. But he's just not nearly important as Jackie Robinson. Okay. Jackie Robinson, not only one of the greatest ball players of all time, maybe one of the greatest Americans of all time. And so modern, and then, the guys can flame out, like if any of us remember Super Joe Charbonneau. Okay.
Absolutely.
And, I think Morant got in trouble for having guns on his Instagram or something. So there's that, and there's, substance abuse and injury, especially pitchers, I mean, Herb's score for a while was going to be Sandy Koufax. And then he got plunked in the eye by Gil McDougald. And so the modern players, for me, I want to see some track record. And if you care about the money, okay, and, God bless America, some of us want to just have fun, and that's okay. Collectibles should be fun. But if you care about the money, I have 6 words for you. The Hall of Fame is forever. Okay. It's forever. So
That's
I
a
want
great
to be a
point.
player. Now, there's the highway to the hall, and you can kind of guess what is going to happen. There's a couple of guys that are locks, right? LeBron James, Mike Trout, absolutely locks. And then you can kind of guess what's going to happen, though you never can tell with the old timers committee. I mean, I heard there's 23 voters who did not vote for Willie Mays, and I think 18 who didn't vote for Hank Aaron. I mean, they should take those guys out in the back and give them 40 lashes or something. But anyway, so you never can tell what's going to happen. But a couple of years ago, I got on Gil Hodges and said, this guy has to get in the Hall of Fame. And my newest one is Gil McDougald, who I think was an all-star at 4 different positions. But, the voters might say, well, the post-war Yankees, we have enough of those, Mantle, Berra, Whitey Ford. We have enough of those. But, Gil McDougald, to me, had a Hall of Fame career.
David, it's interesting because Rico and I and a lot of Boston people have really been pushing for Louis Tiant. And unfortunately,
I agree with that.
Louis didn't get in again. But when you compare his record with some of the others, and listen, nothing against Catfish Hunter, nothing against Ted Lyons, but Louis' numbers are every bit as good, if not better, than those guys. We're pushing for him. We're hoping it's going to happen. Listen, before we take a quick break, and by the way, we're probably going to run over today, and that's because of the good graces of our producer, who's basically said, guys, you can run with this today because we have David and JP. David, how many T206s did you own in your collection?
I think there are about a little over 5,400 different back variations. And I had a little over 5,000. I've heard that nobody has had 3,000.
Unbelievable. And
So
one last,
I was obsessed. I would go to the National and do research, and I'd make a listing of every T206 I saw the back. So I have a pretty good idea what's rare and what's not. The way I started it was a Mastro auction, by the way. I think they had 32 drum backs. of which 12 were unique, the only one known. So I just bought them all, and they were, 1,500, 1,800, 2,000, except I had to pay a little more for Vic Willis, who is in the Hall of Fame. And then I started talking to people about it, and one person, I think Bill Mastro, said it's never been done, which was music to my ears. I said, okay, I'm going to go for this. And I finally sold it because it was just too hard to keep track of all those cards. And it just was, and I couldn't find anything that I needed anymore.
One last question to JP. Oh, not to JP, but what Rico and I have been doing, then we're going to take a break. We're talking about the modern and ultra modern cards. We have been working really, really hard and we're getting to people. I mean, when we go to card shows, we talk, and I'm using my grandson as an example. My grandson's 11 years old. He wanted nothing to do with the vintage market. He was more concerned with getting signed LeBron cards or whatever. And I've been educating him, and we've been talking to his friends. And guess what? It's starting to sink in. They're starting to gravitate towards vintage as well as their modern and ultra modern, because basically they want their collection to be complete. And it's been real hard to work with them, but to the young guys, young collectors out there, I can't stress the importance of the vintage market. You got to make it part of your collection. All right, we're going to take
Hall of Fame is forever.
Absolutely. We're going to take
you mentioned Ted Lyons. Okay, there are Hall of Famers, and then there's all-time greats. Okay, Ted Lyons, a Hall of Fame pitcher, but he's not Sandy Koufax.
Exactly. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Dave is in the house. JP's in the house. We're going to come back with On Deck with Rico. Rico, we're coming back with that. And then that's our last segment. Hang in there. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Curry, a two-time child cancer survivor, recipient, and advocate for Lucy's Love Bus. The mission of Lucy's Love Bus, 501c3 nonprofit, is to provide joy, comfort, and quality of life for the entire family of children with cancer. Since 2006, they have delivered love and comfort to over 3,000 children with cancer and their family members across New England. The dream of Lucy Grogan, an 11-year-old cancer patient, was to help kids with cancer who are suffering right now, before there is a cure, by offering free integrative therapies like art, music, horseback riding, and many other activities. Unfortunately, Lucy passed away, but her dream lives on, and today Lucy's Love Bus is thriving.
I'm Red Sox Hall of Famer Rico Petroselli. I hope that you'll consider supporting Lucy's Love Bus and all of those children who have been stricken by cancer. The Great American Collectibles Show is partnering with Lucy's Love Bus to help these kids. Let's continue Lucy's dream. Please go to lucyslovebus.org for more information.
Pristine Auction is a family-owned and operated online auction specializing in autographed memorabilia, sports cards, coins, art, and collectibles. Since their founding in 2010, they've grown to 2 facilities in Phoenix, Arizona, totaling over 60,000 square feet. Jared Cavalier and an incredible staff of over 150 team members serve a very large customer base and enjoy every minute of it. By working with leading authentication companies, Pristine ensures all items are 100% authentic. In addition, third-party authenticators regularly travel to Pristine Auction to provide authentication services on site. Pristine Auction strives to operate its business in a way that's honoring to God, their families, and their customers. With a strong focus on speed, quality, and premier customer service, their mission is to be the leading online auction for every level of collector and fan. Pristine also works for Hope Sports and Identity Hoops International, traveling to Mexico to build houses for the less fortunate. Pristine Auction offers several online auction formats with thousands of auctions ending each day. For more information, go to pristineauction.com. That's Pristine Auction, the best in the business.
If you are a discerning collector interested in owning the most important pieces in the hobby, look no further than Leland's Auctions. The original sports auction and appraisal house, Leland's was established in 1985 by legendary Pioneer founder Joshua Leland Evans. And today, President Mike Hefner carries on the tradition. From the Tom Brady card and memorabilia collection to the famed Boston Garden auction to high-end card auctions from every major sport, Leland's has always maintained the highest standards. Go to Lelands.com and get your bid in. That's Leland's, the hobby's leading sports auction house for 4 decades.
It's often been said that championships are won on the practice field, and world records come only to those willing to work harder than everybody else. Heritage Auctions is the world's largest collectibles auctioneer because we believe that becoming the best is only an invitation to the challenge of remaining the best. This requires the skills of the hobby's top experts, capable of identifying and maximizing value for our consigners. It requires the most visited website in the industry, courting a global audience of collectors over 1.5 million strong. It requires a dedicated press department that expands our global reach far beyond the entrenched hobby marketplace. It's hard work, but a simple premise. Present the finest collectibles to the largest population of potential buyers, and world records will come. We invite all listeners to put the unmatched power of Heritage Auctions to work for you. Auction evaluations are always free, and our commission-based fee structure ensures that our interests are always aligned. The highest possible price for your collectibles. There will always be new world records to chase, so let's chase them together. Visit our website at ha.com and request your no-obligation review today.
Hi, this is Dan from Memory Lane Auctions, here to remind you that the renowned Memory Lane Collectibles Company has served as a beacon of light to the collecting community for the past several decades. Indeed, folks, it has been our utmost privilege and pleasure to provide the most enthusiastic collectors with an abundance of the finest sports cards and memorabilia for America's most coveted sports personalities via our world-class auctions. Whether you choose either a private sale transaction or the auction route, Memory Lane cordially invites you to reach out to us to maximize the value of your prized possessions. Also, it is not just sales that we pride ourselves on being the best of the rest, because if you are seeking a particular keepsake for your esteemed gathering, we will be relentless in our quest to find that special piece to fulfill your collecting dreams. So no time to wait. Reach out to us today for the purposes of capitalizing on our unparalleled marketing capabilities. Simply pick up the phone and dial 877-606-5263. That's 877-606-LANE, or find us on the World Wide Web at www.memorylaneinc.com. Now is the time for your valued consignment to ultimately become another one of Memory Lane's record-setting prices.
Hey, I'm Mike Petroselli. If your company is looking for the best in marketing and promotional items, you'll hit a home run with Petroselli Marketing. With over 8,000 suppliers and 650,000 imprint-ready items, we can get your company the visibility it needs to get your maximum exposure. Whether it be office promotions, wearables, automotive, sports items, and everything in between, Petroselli Marketing can do it all. Our design staff will even work with you from concept to delivery and customize your products. At Petroselli Marketing Group, we will get your brand in front of your audience. Contact us at info@petrosellimkt.com or call us at 603-880-3202. That's Petroselli Marketing, where no dream is impossible.
Yeah, go to Petroselli Marketing. That's the best way. You'll find all the products. You can get in touch with Mike. He's my oldest son. And, you know, he's got to take care of his father. His father goes to the soup kitchen every day.
Oh, my God.
Rico, I had a question. Do you ever face Kovacs?
Yeah, in spring training, but late in spring training when he was ready for the season. I was telling Tom and others, he had a curveball 12-6 that whistled. I'm saying, what the hell was that? Oh, he was great. And he hid the ball, people. He had that big kick, and he hid the ball. You all of a sudden, boom, it's on you. That was great. He was great.
Listen, before we get into On Deck with Rico, East Coast Sports Marketing is pleased to present the Philadelphia Sports Collectors Show, the Philly Show, from Friday, March 7th through Sunday, March 9th, held at the Greater Philadelphia Expo Center, A&B 100 Station Avenue in Oaks, Pennsylvania. Shop over 300 of your favorite hobby dealer booths on over 140,000 square feet of sports collectibles heaven from the 1800s to the present day. Major sports auction houses and third-party grading and authentication companies are on hand to assist your collecting needs. The Philly Show is family-friendly, and all kids 12 and under, Rico, get in free, so you would get in for nothing. Autographed guests who include Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl hero Nick Foles, 2008 World Series champ Chase Utley, Baseball Hall of Famers Wade Boggs, Mike Schmidt, and Steve Carlton, as well as many more. Go to phillyshow.com. Remember, since 1975, the Philly Show is where it all started. David, speaking of websites, you and your son have a new website. Can you chat about that for a few minutes?
Yes. Well, I'm trying to teach my son how to make money so that his business model is different than Dad, can you help me with the rent? So anyway, so yeah, it's Hall of Fame Exchange.com. And I'm Hall of Fame is forever. And I'm a big proponent, if the money is important to you, of Hall of Famers in 9 and 10. PSA 9 and 10 Hall of Famers.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, JP, again, before we get into Rico's on deck, JP, tell us about your auction. I mean, this is your big spring auction. Kind of whet our appetite a little bit with some of the items.
Yeah, we're just still in the process of putting together the next catalog. There's about 10 days left to get consignments in. We already have some one-of-a-kind amazing pieces that are going to be coming to auction. And just to give a little taste, we have something that you rarely ever see from an advertising piece. We have the old gold cigarette advertisement piece, which is like 8 feet and has Babe Ruth on it from the 1930s. That's going to be a highlight in our auction. We also have a Stallmeyer mantle and a PSA 8. It's the only one ever graded. That's a 6-figure type mantle card, very rare. We have lots of photos, some really cool type 1 photos, a lot of unopened material. We have a huge selection of unopened. We're putting together a big collection of Goudeys in high grade, 33 Goudeys and 7/8 in our next auction, as well as stuff from the 50s, just all the big names from Aaron, Mantle, Clemente, that kind of stuff. So we have a nice grouping of cards already. We're still taking consignments as we just came off of our winter auction. So if anyone out there is looking to maximize their return and utilize our auction format, give us a call. We'd love to work with you.
Great. All right. It is time for us. And by the way, you guys can chirp in here on the questions. It's time for our segment on Deck with Rico, brought to us each week by a good friend, Brian Dwyer, and the great staff at REA Auctions. Don't forget to get your bid in by going to robertedwardauctions.com, and they do have a new website too. That's Robert Edward Auctions for extraordinary results and extraordinary service. This week's question was submitted by Joel Booton. Rico, you played against some of the greatest of all time: Mantle, Aaron, Clemente, Mays, Robinson, just to name a few. Who is the best?
Well, excuse me. I'd say Mays. Mays was the best all-around athlete. Not only, well, he was just great in every area. Could run, hit for power, hit for average, you name it. And he was brought a lot of excitement to the game. Who's similar to him was Clemente. Just that athletic, like a thoroughbred, these two guys. Mantle was great. And Hank Aaron, one of my favorites, just a great guy. And Frank Robinson, man alive, he was one of the toughest guys. He was knocked down. We knocked him down one time. Next pitch, he hit 500 feet over the green monster. He was tough, but I would say Mays. Mays was just amazing. You just see, I saw him when he was young, saw him, and then played against him, and just incredible, incredible.
Hey, guys, jump in here, by the way, if you have questions regarding that. Rico, what about
that goes to all-time greats. There's a difference between a Ted Lyons and an all-time great. Nothing against Ted Lyons. He's in the Hall of Fame. But when you're talking about Mantle, Mays,
Right.
Aaron, Clemente, those are the cards that if they're in a JP auction, it's going to be hard to buy. Everybody wants the all-time greats, as it should be. And you know, unlike Rico, I didn't play against Koufax, so I don't know you know, from firsthand experience, but it's the all-time greats that have the most demand. And it's not just Hall of Fame players, they're also what I call Hall of Fame cards. Okay, cards that are so important. For instance, the 1952 Topps #1, as we used to, you know, do cards in number order. So #1s and last cards are usually very condition sensitive. So the #152 Topps is Andy Pafko. Now, Andy Pafko was not an all-time great, but he wasn't a zero. I think he was a 4-time All-Star. And his 52 Topps card, he's there with the Dodgers. So you see him in the Dodger blue with the B on his hat. So, and it's really, really it's like an all-time great card because it's, you know, almost impossible to find in high grade.
You know, David, there's a funny Rico Petrocelli,
Come
Babe
on.
Ruth, the Babe Ruth Rico Petrocelli. Listen to this one. Go ahead, Rick.
No, some guy come up to me and it might not have even been a card show or something. I don't know. And he's got a Babe Ruth, beautiful signature, you know, on the sweet spot and all that. And he says, "Could you sign my ball?" So you know, I didn't know his Ruth was on there. So I get the ball. I said, I got Babe Ruth on there. He says, "Yeah, you're my favorite player."
Wow.
I said, "Wait a minute.
Did you sign it?
You signed it.
Oh gosh.
Oh. I says, "You're an idiot," you know. On the ball. So you got a Babe Ruth Rico Petrocelli ball. You
It's
just
a one of a kind though, like
Exactly. That's what
like
I
Tom
told
was
him.
saying, if you know, or David was saying, if it's rare and it's unique and it's a Hall of Fame forever because you have Babe Ruth on there and you got Rico for Boston, you know, hey, why not, right?
All right. Crazy. All right, listen, we're just about out of time. David, I can't thank you enough. And JP, good. You want to say something?
No, I think it's fabulous to talk with both of them.
Oh yeah, no, you guys. I can't thank you both enough for coming on. Again, we referred to you, David, as one of the 4 on the Mount Rushmore in the hobby, and
couple of lucky guesses.
Well, and also JP, obviously, what you mean to the hobby. You know, guys like Lee, who's watching the show. Guys like Al Crisafoli, Love of the Game, the smaller auction houses. There's a great niche for those guys. And then you've got JP probably at the top of the heap, along with Heritage and Ken Golden and those guys. There's a niche for them. But JP, I think from day one, man, you've been pretty much up there, close to the top, if not at the top.
He has handled some insane cards.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy, absolutely crazy. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for coming on board. David, can we get a commitment that at some point in time we're going to get you back on?
Absolutely, Tom. I so appreciate everything you've done.
Well,
I do have a baseball story for Rico if you have a few minutes.
We do. Go ahead.
Because you might know some of these. So, one of my friends played for the Tigers for 1 year. He gave batting lessons to my son. His name is Jim Lentine. And anyway, Jim was a tough guy. When he was in AAA, he led the league 1 year in being hit by the pitch. So he wasn't afraid. I said, "Jim, was there ever a time when you were afraid to hit?" And he said there was one really cold night in Detroit. And Sparky Anderson said, "Jim, get a bat and get on the on-deck circle." And there were 2 outs. And he said he was praying that the batter would make an out because he said you could see steam coming off the ball and he didn't want to bat. And, it was Goose Gossage.
Oh, wow.
Is that a cute story?
Very, very. All right, listen, we're just about out of.
Did you bat against Goose Gossage?
Yes, a lot.
Did you get hit by him?
The White Sox, and when he was with the White Sox, he was a starter. And then they, of course, eventually went to the bullpen. But he had the ball that would come in on you. Yeah, I probably got hit maybe in the back or something, but he was tough.
What was the worst hit what pitcher you got hit by that you'll never forget? Like it was like the one that stung the most.
Well, I got hit in Milwaukee. Bill Slayton was a pitcher, but it was a beanballing situation where it went back and forth. And Tiant was a pitcher. Tiant was tough. He get knocked around real bad. He knocked guys down. And so one of the guys, I think, hit in the shoulder and then hit in the side of his face or his neck. So I was the next hitter. I knew it was coming. It was a day game. And the center field, it was a glare out there so bad. And I never saw the ball. I saw the pitcher. I saw Slayton wind up, and that's all I did. And bang, it hit me right in the behind the ear.
Ooh.
And yeah, it was it went down, and I stayed overnight. And
Rico, you ever rushed the mound?
No. That's the worst. I get hit in the elbow and a funny bone that would kill you. But in those days they just you got
part of baseball.
If a couple of guys hit home runs and you were the next guy up, you were going down. So that's how it was.
That's
but
cool.
we a lot of brawls.
All right, guys. My producer is in my ear saying, guys, we got to cut it. We got to cut it. So we got to cut it. With that being said, David, thanks so much. Special thanks to you. Special thanks to JP. Thanks to Lee Behrens for coming on. And to our viewers and listeners, we hope you enjoyed the show. Next week, we have another big guest, big surprise coming next week. With that being said, happy collecting.